So this is sort of a short chapter, and I wanted to try and do a quick recording for it. So this is Unit 20. Unfortunately, it starts with verb classifications. So what it's saying is that there are now four new types of verbs. These are two radical verbs and then infinitives. Type 1 will have an A between the first and second radical. Type 2 will have an O between the first and second radical. Type 3 will have this type of E between the first and second radical. And this is an upside down E for the fourth type, and that'll be between, again, the first and second radical. They all begin with this ME, upside down E. So to me, they pretty much function normally. I mean, these are examples of words that they bring up, but they kind of follow logical conjugations. The only one I think was kind of important to note is that in the imperfective for type 1, the A will become an I, which is kind of shown in the examples. And then these are meant to be showing like the different ways the verbs can change. Basically, like you double this first consonant here. Now it's a passive reflexive thing where it's kind of more like well, actually kind of tough to like this is more like a state of being, like to be decorated. That's kind of how I normally interpret them. Causative with an A, and then causative is like causing an action to happen from someone else. Kind of the typical like A and AS conjugations there. Here it goes into some great practice. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I think it might be worth the exercise to just go through. So these are type 1, and like I said before, the imperative will have an I, or imperfective, sorry, will have an I here instead of an A, and hopefully we'll see that in a second. So mewal, I think this is to spend the day, right? Wale is the perfective. For the passive reflexive, like normal, you put a T in front of for the perfective for this one, which I think is like to be spent for the day. I'm not exactly understanding like what that means, to be honest, but just the pattern I think is worth going over. Mawal I think would be like, actually I have no idea, to postpone, interesting. And then maswal, that makes more sense, like to cause to spend the day. And then here you just have the typical like removing the M and adding an E onto the end. Yewala, you see this should be an A, but it's become an I. That's what the imperfective change is kind of indicating for that. And then here, these are the words that keep. Here the causative actually it also loses its A. Interesting. So it looks like the only one that actually keeps its A is this passive reflexive. Jussive will look like the imperfective without the extra AL normally. So yep, that looks like that's consistent. While this would be like the perfective but without the E, and that looks pretty consistent. I mean, I've mentioned that I don't think this is a, well, awale, awil. Yeah, that probably will sound very different, but it's just kind of tough to memorize that in particular. When you strive for perfection, I think coming back and really having this down pat, but I think it wouldn't hurt to just apply, like it's the perfective without the E, just in general, and hopefully from context, people can understand what you're saying. Jiran should be the imperative with an O, so looking here, it looks fairly consistent. Noun of agent, so I kind of tried to bring up the notes from over here. So basically, you normally add an, oh sorry, that's noun of instrument, here we go, up to noun of agent. Normally you just add an I to the last consonant, unless it ends in one of the 8 cursed constants is what I call them, but parallel constants. And mewal actually ends with an L, as you can see here, literally the last thing shown here. So it's not going to end with an I, it's just going to end, or yeah, with an I, it's going to change the L ending of the words to a Y, and that's how you're going to get the noun of agent for these words. For the noun of instrument coming down here, again, this is kind of an apalatal constant exception, but normally you would add like an EA to get the noun of instrument. I think you get like oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it now. Okay, like make emet is to sit down, make emet is a seat. So like it's more like it's something that you use to sort of do the action. Anyway, with the apalatal constants, again you kind of replace the palatal constant and then you just kind of throw an A on is kind of the trend I noticed. So again here L becomes a Y, and then instead of just having an IA and EA thrown onto it, which would be thrown onto the infinitive form of the word, you just throw it on to, I guess it's still the infinitive, but with the palatal constant replacing it. See, macomia doesn't end with one of the apalatal constants, so it's just the infinitive with EA thrown onto the end of it, and I think it'll be like something that you can use to stop, or like maybe a stop sign or something. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you. And then noun of agents, I'm actually forgetting their particular. Oh, it's like a student, teacher, difficult. So it's kind of adjectives and um, I guess like nouns that people can play a role as, I guess, is what it's looking like. Um, yeah, I don't know why. Like, it could be a noun or a modifier. That's how I describe it. Interesting. Okay. Moving forward, make ome, dek ome, again, passive reflex, it begins with a T. Akome, askome, alright. Ik omal, okay, makes sense. Ik omal, yakmol, yaskomal, okay, all that looks normal. Oh, I might have skipped jussive. Well, no, I think I mentioned it's just the imperfective of the A, L ending that looks, I mean, you changing, so a vowel change here, another vowel change here, so those are important, but again, I think with context, you can kind of get by with more simplified and less like technical perfection, I guess, translations of things. Imperative should basically be perfective without the E. Close, this is like that, close, close. I guess this U change. I'm gonna have to come back up here. Did they mention this? Interesting. So this O, I think, becomes a U in, looks like the jussive, the imperative, for causative A, underived. Interesting. I'm just saying it because I want to have like the technical explanations for things, but I don't want it to become very technical when I try and practice this in the future for anyone who wants to try and practice this. Gerund should be the imperative with an O thrown on the end of it, which looks pretty consistent. This doesn't end in one of the apatalal constants, so you just throw an I onto the end of the gerund instead of the O. And I think, and then, yeah, EA for the noun of instrument. And yeah, that looks like a pretty simple, consistent system there. Try and speed through here. Mahid had a with a T, same thing. All these draw off the MAs, throw the E onto the end. You head out, you get out, yeah, these all look normal. There should be this without the AL, without the AL, without the AL, without the AL. Pretty similar, but some vowel changes that I think are too technical to really be bothered to memorize at this point. This should be the perfective without the E, perfective without the E, perfective, yeah, pretty close, perfective, imperative with an O, yep, O, yep. This ends with one of the apatalal constants. D's become J, if I can actually pull that up over here. Yeah, D becomes a J. So, and it's not going to have the, just I thrown onto it, it's just going to be that, so Hiaj. This ends with a glottalized T, which is going to become a CH, which is how you get to this, and this noun of agent definitions. And then here again, you don't add EA onto it, you replace it with its apatalal constant replacement, and then you just throw an A onto the end, and that's how you get these words here. And this is again using the infinitive for that. And let me just double check that these are all, yeah, those mostly match up. And they mean some vowel changes, but I think it's not worth the effort to try and memorize those. Same idea, I'm just gonna scan it myself and not explain it actually, just to save time. The light should be like that without E's. Yep. Yeah. Add O's to, am I confusing myself? Okay, interesting. Did they switch the order? Have they been switching the order? Imperfective, jussive, imperative. Imperfective, imperative, jussive. So they switched the order here all of a sudden. Yeah, because I was kind of confused. There should be that without the AL. This should be the perfective without the E. Yeah. Is this a paddle constant ending? S? Yeah, so it should become SH. So SH, ASH, and then SH with an A. Yep. Okay, cool. And personal constructions, and I can click back over to here. There's not really any too amazingly interesting notes here. I think the textbook doesn't really explain this well, but essentially I've noticed this already, but like for certain words, when you take it into the imperfective, the meaning changes, and when you add like verb suffix pronouns to that word, the meaning of the word changes completely. Like masfellig means to cause, to want, but if you say jasfellig genial, that means I need. If you take like jasfellig, this is the imperfective form of the word, and you add this verb suffix pronoun, it now kind of, I guess a direct translation would be something like to cause me to want, but the actual meaning translation comes out to be like I need. And every single verb suffix pronoun that you replace it with, like yasfelik wal, yasfelik atal, hopefully I'm getting that right. Yasfelik hel, yasfelik shal, yasfelik genal, yasfelik actual, yasfelik actual. These are all different ways of saying like this person needs whatever I guess you mentioned earlier in the sentence. Matsemat is to be heard. I think it's supposed to be the oh my gosh, causative, passive reflexive, not causative, passive reflexive version of the word. But here in the imperfective, and the example is with you polite, like you're talking to you polite, like it means feel, like yeah, it's kind of tough to explain. Essentially, I'm trying to find like maybe a good. Okay, yeah, Megbot is maybe a good example. So this means to enter. Yegebal would be like he entered, or he will enter, or it will enter. But again, when you add these like verb suffix pronouns, yegebinya doesn't mean it means like I understand, like it. I don't know. Maybe I guess it'd be like it will enter into me or something like, or I understand it. Is kind of the translation that comes out. Same word here, but with a verb suffix pronoun in the imperfective, different meaning. This just case by case, but circumstances. In my opinion, I think I could go through these examples, but I think the point is just understanding that okay, there are some words that are just kind of weird in that way. And then lastly, the present perfect. I'm really hoping I'm recording. Yes. Okay. Present perfect version of the word. Kind of similar. Oh my gosh, I thought I had it ready. Oh yeah, I think I have it over here. So present perfect versions of words are kind of like, in my opinion, saying something recently had happened in the past. Like the perfective can be used, and it's like, yeah, it was perfect with the perfective. The perfective can be anything that was like 1,000 years ago or 1 second ago, whereas the present perfect is mostly things that are like recent, like it wouldn't be 1,000 years ago. And then for certain words, it kind of ends up having an ing type of meaning, and for some reason, like tek emetwal is he is sitting. Komialo is I'm standing. Rasen amumonial is I have a headache. It's more like current situation type of thing rather than like a recent past thing. And to be honest, I've noticed a lot of words kind of have inconsistent tense. I'm trying to think of the right word. Like if you say something like will happen in the future, like using the imperfective, sometimes it means that you are experiencing it in that moment. Just colloquially speaking, from what I've noticed. And I guess these words that should be technically happening in the recent past are kind of present continuous sounding words. Yeah, then it goes into all the outlines for different things like that. But that's really this chapter explained, and I hope that wasn't too bad.